We don't take sides, my parents said, while hosting my ex-wife and my brother at Sunday dinner after they destroyed my marriage. Fine, I don't take sides either. When the mortgage is due, they took a side real quick after that. Hey everyone, I-34. Male need to get this whole mess off my chest. Fair warning, this is going to be long, but I promise it's worth it. This whole situation has been eating at me for months, and honestly, writing it down is the only way I can process what happened with my family. So here's the setup. I've got a younger brother, let's call him Derek. He's 31, and we used to be pretty close growing up. Not like best friends or anything, but we got along. Played video games together, went to each other's high school events, normal brother stuff. Our parents, both in their early 60s now, always made a big deal about treating us equally. Everything had to be fair. Same birthday budget, same Christmas presents, same college fund amounts. You get the idea. I married my ex-wife, I'll call her Madison, when I was 28. We'd been together since college, and I genuinely thought she was the one. She was smart, funny, ambitious, had this infectious laugh that could light up a room. We had this whole life planned out. The career paths, the house in the suburbs, eventually 2 kids and a dog. The whole package that you're supposed to want, you know? Madison worked in marketing at this tech startup downtown. Long hours, lots of networking events, team building activities, the usual startup culture stuff. But the money was good and she loved it. Said she was building something real, something that mattered. I'm a civil engineer, which means steady work, decent pay, but nothing flashy. I design bridges and highway systems. Important work, but not the kind of thing people get excited about at parties. We bought a nice 3-bedroom house in a good neighborhood about 4 years ago. Nothing fancy, but it had a backyard, good schools nearby for when we had kids, and a 2-car garage. Not huge, but it was ours. We picked out paint colors together, argued about furniture placement, hosted our first Thanksgiving there. All the things young married couples do. My parents live about 20 minutes away in the house I grew up in. Same split-level ranch they bought when I was 2 years old. They're both retired now. Dad used to manage a hardware store, and Mom was a school secretary for 30 years. Good people, solid middle-class background. They worked hard, saved money, did everything right, or at least I thought they were good people. Thought they did everything right. They had this tradition of Sunday dinners that they took really seriously. Every single week, the whole family was supposed to show up at 5 o'clock sharp. Mom would make pot roast or lasagna or her famous fried chicken. We'd sit around that big oak dining table they'd bought at an estate sale back in the 80s, and we'd eat and talk and pretend we were this functional, happy family. It was their thing, you know, keeping the family together no matter what. Derek never really settled down. He bounced between jobs like they were trampolines. Started as a bank teller. Got fired for being late too many times. Tried selling insurance. Hated it. Quit after 4 months. Went back to school for graphic design. Dropped out halfway through. Worked at a gym for a while. Then a call center. Then did some freelance web development that never really took off. Always had some new scheme or business idea that was definitely going to make him rich this time. Never quite worked out. But he's charming though, I'll give him that. Always knew how to talk his way into things. Talk his way out of trouble. Could convince you black was white if he tried hard enough. Our parents would bail him out when he got in financial trouble, which happened more often than I'd like to admit. Rent money here, car payment there, just a little loan to get this business off the ground. I never said anything because, well, that's what family does, right? You help each other out. You don't keep score. The problem started about 2 years ago, but I didn't see them coming. How could I? You don't see a freight train coming when you're looking the other way. Madison started working even longer hours. There were more business trips to conferences in other cities, more late-night calls she had to take in another room, more weekend work sessions at coffee shops. I figured it was just her job getting more demanding. The startup was growing fast, bringing on new clients, expanding into new markets. She was up for a promotion to senior marketing director. Made sense that she'd be stressed, busy, distracted. Derek started coming around our place more often too. He'd drop by when I was at work, saying he was in the neighborhood and wanted to say hi to Madison. Just being friendly, being a good brother-in-law. She told me he was helping her with some tech stuff for work since he'd done some coding in the past. Helping her optimize their website or something. I thought it was great that they were getting along so well. Family harmony, right? Looking back now, there were so many red flags I ignored. The way Madison's phone was suddenly always face down on the table. How she started going to the gym at weird hours, like 10 o'clock at night. The new lingerie I found in her drawer that she never wore around me still had the tags on. Derek canceling plans with me last minute, but posting Instagram stories from coffee shops near our house. Madison smelling different when she came home from her late work sessions, wearing perfume she usually saved for special occasions. But you know how it is when you trust someone completely. You don't want to see what's right in front of you. You make excuses. You tell yourself you're being paranoid, that you've been watching too many true crime documentaries, that not everyone who works late is cheating. The truth came out 6 months ago in the most cliché way possible. I came home early from a work site because we finished the structural assessment ahead of schedule. Found Derek's beat-up Honda Civic in our driveway, which was weird because he'd told me earlier that day he had a job interview across town. Found the front door unlocked. Found their clothes making a trail up the stairs. Found them in our bedroom. Our bedroom. The one I'd spent 3 weekends painting that specific shade of blue-gray Madison had obsessed over from Pinterest. I don't remember much about those first few minutes. There was shouting, a lot of shouting. Madison crying, grabbing for the sheets. Derek trying to pull his pants on and explain at the same time. Something about how it just happened, how they didn't mean for it to go this far, how they'd been fighting their feelings for months. All the usual garbage people say when they get caught doing something unforgivable. I kicked them both out, told Derek to get the hell out of my house and my life, told Madison I wanted a divorce, that I'd have her stuff packed up by the end of the week, that she could stay at a hotel, or with her mother, or with Derek for all I cared. She tried to convince me to calm down, to talk it through, to go to couples therapy, to work it out. Like there was anything to work out after I found her in bed with my own brother. That night, after I'd stopped shaking, after I'd thrown away the sheets and the pillows, after I'd taken a shower so hot it left marks on my skin, I called my parents. Needed someone to talk to, you know? Someone who would be on my side. Someone who would tell me I wasn't crazy for being devastated. I drove over to their house around 9 o'clock. Dad answered the door in his ratty old bathrobe, the one Mom keeps threatening to throw away. They sat me down in the living room, made me tea I didn't drink, and I told them everything, every detail. The clothes on the stairs, the excuses, Derek's face when I walked in. And you know what they said? We need to hear Derek's side of the story. That should have been my first warning sign. But I was in shock, so I didn't really process it. My brain was still stuck on the image of my wife and my brother together. I figured they were just trying to understand the whole situation before reacting. Parents do that, right? Try to get all the facts? Stay calm in a crisis? The next day, Derek apparently went over there too. Spent 2 hours giving them his version, which I'm sure was full of excuses and manipulation and twisted logic. My parents called me after and said they needed some time to process everything. Asked me not to do anything rash. To think carefully before making any big decisions. Too late for that. I'd already called a lawyer that morning. Martin, a guy I'd worked with on some municipal projects who did family law. He'd taken one look at my face and cleared his schedule. Filed for divorce that afternoon. Started separating our finances, changing passwords, documenting everything. Madison had been the one pushing to keep everything joint, said it showed trust and partnership. Yeah, I bet she liked having access to my accounts while planning her exit strategy. The divorce was messy, really messy. Madison wanted the house, wanted half my retirement savings, wanted alimony even though she made almost as much as I did. Claimed she'd sacrificed her career advancement to support my work, which was complete garbage. But her lawyer was good at spinning stories. My lawyer was better, though. We had a prenup, thank God. Something my dad had actually insisted on, ironically. Said it was just smart business, even though he liked Madison at the time. Guess he was right about that one thing. Here's where my parents really started showing their true colors. About a month after everything imploded, after I'd moved out of the house into a depressing one-bedroom apartment across town, after I'd started sleeping more than 3 hours a night again, I got invited to Sunday dinner like normal. Just a text from Mom. Dinner at 5. See you then. Love you. Figured it might be good to get out of my apartment, the place that smelled like old takeout and defeat. Maybe talk to my parents about everything that was happening with the lawyers. Have some home-cooked food instead of another frozen pizza. Feel normal for a few hours. I showed up at their place at 5 sharp, walked in through the back door like I'd done 1,000 times before, and guess who was sitting at the dining table? Madison and Derek. Together. Sitting next to each other. Laughing about something with my mom in the kitchen, like they were all old friends catching up. I just stood there in the doorway, completely frozen. Couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't process what I was seeing. My dad came over, put his hand on my shoulder in that fatherly way he used to do when I was upset about something, and said, "We don't take sides in our family. Everyone deserves a place at our table." I looked at him, really looked at him. Saw my dad, the man who taught me to ride a bike, who came to all my baseball games, who helped me move into my first apartment. And I didn't recognize him. Are you serious right now? Derek is our son too, Mom said, coming out of the kitchen with her floral oven mitts still on. And Madison was part of this family for 6 years. We can't just cut people out. That's not what family does. They were sleeping together, I said, my voice sounding weird and distant. In my house, in my bed, for months. Dad sighed like I was being difficult about something minor. We understand you're hurt, but Derek explained that you and Madison had been growing apart for a while. That you were distant, focused on work. These things happen. People make mistakes. We need to move forward as a family, growing apart. That's what Derek told them. Not that he'd been systematically betraying his own brother for who knows how long. Not that Madison had been lying to my face while planning a future with someone else. Just that we'd been growing apart, and these things happen. Madison had the audacity to give me this sad smile, this pitying look. I'm glad we can all be mature about this. I think it's important that we stay civil. I left. Didn't eat, didn't sit down, didn't say another word. Just walked right back out that door and got in my car and drove. Ended up at a bar I'd never been to on the other side of town. Got about 50 texts that night from my mom saying I was being childish and that I needed to learn forgiveness. That holding grudges would only hurt me. That Derek was sorry and Madison was sorry. And everyone deserved a second chance. The Sunday dinners continued. Every single week, Derek and Madison would be there. Sitting at that table, eating my mom's cooking, probably talking about how unreasonable I was being. My parents would invite me, and every week I'd decline. They started getting annoyed with me. Said I was holding a grudge, that I was being petty, that family is supposed to forgive each other no matter what. My brother, who betrayed me in the worst way possible. My ex-wife, who cheated on me for months. And my parents expected me to just sit at a table and pass them the mashed potatoes, like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't walked in on them destroying my entire life. Here's something I haven't mentioned yet. Something that becomes important later. About 5 years ago, my parents almost lost their house. Dad had made some bad investments, trying to play the stock market with some buddies from the hardware store. Lost about $40,000 in some tech startup that went belly up. They got behind on their mortgage. Like really behind. We're talking foreclosure notices, lawyers calling, the whole nightmare scenario. I helped them. Used a big chunk of my savings, about $30,000, to catch up their payments and get them out of default. Then, to make sure they'd never be in that position again, I refinanced their mortgage in my name. Better credit score, better interest rate, the works. Cut their monthly payment by almost $400. They made the monthly payments to me, and I paid the bank. It was supposed to protect them, help them retire comfortably. The house is in their name, but the mortgage is in mine. Legally, I'm responsible for it. If they don't pay, it hits my credit. If they default, I'm on the hook. For 5 years, they never missed a payment. Things were good. They thanked me every month when they handed over the check. Said I was such a good son, so responsible, that they didn't know what they'd do without me. I never thought twice about it. They were my parents. You help your parents. But after 3 months of Sunday dinners with Derek and Madison, after 3 months of my parents telling me I needed to get over it, after 3 months of being told I was the problem for not wanting to play happy family with the two people who destroyed my marriage, something in me shifted. I was sitting in my apartment one Sunday, the same time the family dinner would be happening. I could picture it perfectly. Mom bringing out the pot roast, Dad carving it at the head of the table, Derek and Madison sitting there, probably holding hands under the table, probably relieved that I wasn't there to ruin the mood with my negativity. And I thought, if they don't take sides, then neither do I. I pulled up my bank account on my laptop, looked at that mortgage payment that came out like clockwork on the first of every month, $1,200, had been paying it for 5 years without fail. I drafted an email, read it over 3 times, made sure it was professional and clear. Dear Mom and Dad, due to recent changes in my financial situation, I will no longer be able to cover the mortgage payments on your property. Your first payment will be due on the 1st of next month. The amount is $1,247.83. Please make arrangements accordingly. I've attached the mortgage company's contact information and account number for your reference. I stared at that email for about 20 minutes before I hit send. My finger hovered over the button. This was it. This was the nuclear option. Once I sent this, there was no taking it back. I hit send. My phone started ringing within 5 minutes. Mom's name on the screen. I didn't answer. Let it go to voicemail. Her voice was panicked, shaking. What are you talking about? What financial changes? This doesn't make any sense. Call us back right now. We need to talk about this. I didn't call back. Instead, I sent a follow-up email with copies of the original loan documents showing they were the homeowners, the mortgage statement, and the bank's contact information. Everything they needed to set up their own payment plan. They had 25 days to make arrangements. The calls kept coming. 23 missed calls that first night. Dad left a voicemail saying this was unacceptable, that we had an agreement, that I couldn't just change the terms like this. Another from Mom crying, asking how I could do this to them. How could I be so cruel? Derek even called, telling me I was being manipulative and using money to punish people, that I was showing my true colors. That last one made me laugh. Derek calling me manipulative. Derek, who'd been sleeping with my wife while pretending to be my brother. The irony was almost funny. I finally answered on day 3. My mom was crying before she even said hello. How could you do this to us? This is our home. We've lived here for 32 years. You're right, I said calmly, surprised by how steady my voice was. It is your home, and you should be the ones paying for it. We can't afford these payments. You know that. That's why you took over the mortgage in the first place. Then you should probably cut back on some expenses. Maybe stop buying dinner for 6 people every Sunday. That's gotta add up. Pot roast isn't cheap. Silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing. This is about Derek and Madison, isn't it? Dad had gotten on the line, voice tight with anger. This is about me not subsidizing people who don't respect me. You said you don't take sides. Great. I don't take sides either. Which means I'm not taking your side when it comes to paying your bills. That's completely different. Is it? Because it seems pretty similar to me. You made a choice to keep hosting them, to keep welcoming them into your home, to keep telling me I'm wrong for being hurt, to tell me I'm being petty and immature for not wanting to sit across from the people who betrayed me. Those were your choices. This is mine. Mom started crying harder. You're going to make us lose our house. We'll be out on the street. No, you're going to lose your house if you don't figure out how to make the payments. I'm just not going to prevent it anymore. There's a difference. We're your parents. We raised you. We put a roof over your head. And Derek is your son. And Madison was your daughter-in-law for 6 years. Apparently, those relationships are sacred and worth protecting no matter what they do. So I'm sure your relationship with Derek is worth him helping out with the mortgage, right? He can chip in. He's been living rent-free with his new girlfriend Madison, so he should have some money saved up. I could hear them both trying to talk over each other, voices rising, but I just hung up. The next Sunday, I didn't get an invitation to dinner. In fact, I didn't hear from my parents at all for 4 days. When my mom finally called, her voice was cold, professional almost. Derek says he can't help with the house payments. He's been struggling financially, between jobs again. That's unfortunate. Madison said you got the house in the divorce, so she can't help either. All her money is tied up in legal fees. Sounds like you're in a tough spot then. How can you be so cruel? We raised you. We gave you everything. We sacrificed for you. You gave me everything equally with Derek, remember? You always made sure of that. Same college fund, same birthday presents, same everything. So I'm sure he'll step up equally now. That's only fair, right? She hung up on me. 2 weeks before their payment was due, my dad called. No mom in the background, no crying, just him. And he sounded tired. What's it going to take? He asked quietly. What do you mean? For you to keep paying the mortgage. What do you want? Money? An apology? What? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I want you to choose. Choose what? Derek and Madison, or me. You don't get both. You said you don't take sides, but Dad, you did take a side. You took their side the moment you invited them to your house and expected me to be okay with it. The moment you told me to get over it. The moment you said Derek's excuses were good enough. He's my son. So am I. But you decided his comfort was more important than my pain. You decided having them at your table was more important than having me. So now you get to decide if their company is worth your house. Long silence. I could hear him breathing, hear the TV in the background. That's not fair. Neither was walking into my parents' house and seeing my ex-wife and my brother laughing together like they didn't blow up my entire life. But you know what? Life isn't fair, Dad. You taught me that. Remember? When I didn't make varsity baseball sophomore year, and you said life isn't fair, you just have to work harder? When I didn't get the scholarship I wanted, and you said sometimes things don't work out the way we plan? This is different. Yeah, it is. Because I'm not asking you to work harder. I'm asking you to make a choice. The same choice you've been asking me to accept for months. You chose to stay neutral, which meant choosing them. Now choose if they're worth $1,200 a month. He hung up. The payment was due in 10 days when Derek showed up at my apartment. I'd just gotten home from work, still had my work boots on, when I found him leaning against his car in the parking lot, arms crossed, trying to look tough. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't. Mom and Dad are going to lose the house because of you. Their house. Where we grew up. Where they've lived for over 30 years. No, they're going to lose the house because they can't afford it. And they decided that maintaining a relationship with the guy who slept with my wife was more important than maintaining one with the guy who's been paying their mortgage for 5 years." Derek's face flushed red. "It wasn't like that with Madison and me. You don't understand. It just happened. We didn't plan it. Things don't just happen, Derek. You made choices. Every time you came to my house. Every time you texted her. Every time you sat next to her at Sunday dinner and smiled at me like everything was normal. Every time you lied to my face. Those were choices. You chose to do that. I'm your brother. We're supposed to forgive each other. You were my brother. Now you're just some guy who screwed my wife and expected me to get over it because we share DNA. Look, I get that you're mad, but taking it out on Mom and Dad isn't right. They didn't do anything wrong. They're just trying to keep the family together." I actually laughed at that. "They did everything wrong, Derek. They told me to forgive you when you didn't even apologize. They invited you and Madison to family dinners while I was going through a divorce. They told me I was being petty for not wanting to break bread with the people who betrayed me. They chose you, over and over again. So now they get to live with that choice. I can't help them with the house. I don't have that kind of money. I'm barely making rent. Then I guess you're not as valuable to them as they thought you were. Funny how that works." He got angry then. Started yelling about how I was being vindictive, how I was destroying the family, how Mom was having panic attacks because of me, how this was all my fault for not being able to let things go. I just went inside and locked the door. Stood there listening to him yell for about 5 minutes before he finally left. 3 days before the payment was due, both my parents showed up at my apartment. Together this time. They looked like they'd aged 10 years in the last month. I let them in because, honestly, I wanted to hear what they had to say. They sat on my second-hand couch, looking smaller than I remembered. Older. Tired. "We'll tell Derek and Madison they can't come to Sunday dinners anymore," Mom said quietly, not meeting my eyes. "If that's what you want, if that's what it takes. It's not about what I want anymore, Mom. It's about what you chose. You chose to make them feel welcome, and me feel crazy for being hurt. You chose to prioritize their feelings over mine. We were trying to keep the family together," Dad said, and he actually sounded like he believed it. "No, you were trying to avoid conflict with Derek. There's a difference. You've been avoiding conflict with Derek his whole life. Every time he screwed up, you fixed it. Every time he needed money, you gave it to him. Every time he disappointed you, you lowered your expectations instead of raising your standards. And when he screwed me over in the worst way possible, you decided that was just another thing to overlook. We love both our sons," Mom whispered. "Then you should have acted like it. You should have told Derek what he did was unforgivable. You should have supported me, not asked me to get over it. You should have chosen the son who was loyal over the son who wasn't." "What do you want us to do?" Dad asked, and he sounded genuinely confused. "Tell us. We'll do it. Just tell us what you want." That's when I realized they still didn't get it. They thought this was a negotiation, that they could say the right words and everything would go back to normal, and I'd go back to paying their bills and pretending nothing happened. "I want you to understand that choices have consequences. You chose Derek and Madison over me. You chose their comfort over my pain. Now you get to live with that choice. If Derek is worth more to you than me, then he should be worth enough to help you keep your house. But he can't. Then maybe you chose wrong. Maybe you bet on the wrong son. Maybe you should have thought about that before you told me I needed to forgive the people who destroyed my marriage." They left. The payment came due. They didn't make it. I didn't either. That's when things got really interesting. The mortgage company called me 3 days after the missed payment. Since my name was on the loan, I was the first point of contact. I explained the situation as calmly as I could. The homeowners would be making payments going forward. I was no longer involved in the financial arrangement. They weren't happy about it. Started talking about late fees and credit impacts. But I'd been a good customer for 5 years. Perfect payment history. So they said they'd give my parents some time to work it out. I called my parents, gave them the mortgage company's direct line and the account representative's name, and told them they needed to work it out. Then I blocked their numbers for a week. Needed some space from all of it. Some silence. When I unblocked them, I had 27 missed calls and about 40 texts. Most from Mom, increasingly desperate. Some from Dad, angry and then pleading. 3 from Derek calling me every name in the book. Even one from Madison saying I was being cruel and vindictive. I listened to the voicemails in order. It was like hearing them go through the 5 stages of grief in real time. First, anger. How dare I do this to them? I was ungrateful. They'd raised me better than this. I was showing my true colors. They'd always known I was cold. Then, bargaining. They'd make it right. They'd talk to Derek, set boundaries. Madison wouldn't be welcome anymore. They'd do whatever I wanted. Then, depression. They were going to lose everything. How could I let this happen? They'd be homeless. They'd have nowhere to go. Finally, acceptance. They'd figured out a solution. That last message was from Dad, and his voice was flat, empty. We've worked something out with the bank. We're selling the house. Listing it this week. I sat in my car in my apartment parking lot, listening to that message 3 times. Selling the house I grew up in, the house where every Sunday dinner happened, the house where I'd learned to ride a bike in the driveway and had my high school graduation party in the backyard, the house that apparently meant so much to them that they were willing to blow up their relationship with me to keep filling it with Derek and Madison. I called Dad back. You're selling? We don't have a choice. We can't afford the payments, and we're already behind. The bank is willing to work with us if we list it immediately. Real estate agent comes tomorrow. Where will you go? There's a condo complex near the lake. 2 bedrooms. Smaller, but manageable. The mortgage will be half what it is now, maybe less. We can afford it on retirement alone. Won't need anyone's help. That last part stung. Won't need anyone's help. Won't need my help. Good. Silence on his end. Long enough that I thought he'd hung up. Then, are you happy now? Is this what you wanted? No, Dad. I'm not happy. I didn't want any of this. I wanted my wife not to cheat on me. I wanted my brother not to betray me. I wanted my parents to support me. But you couldn't just do that. You couldn't just tell Derek he was wrong. You had to stay neutral. And neutral meant choosing him. So no, I'm not happy. But I'm done being the only one who has to sacrifice. We never chose him over you. Yeah, you did. Every single Sunday you chose him. Every time you told me to forgive him, you chose him. Every time you made excuses for what he did, you chose him. Every time you told me I was being unreasonable, you chose him. I was just supposed to accept that. Well, now you get to accept this. Mom got on the line. Her voice was hollow, defeated. Derek hasn't spoken to us in 2 weeks. That surprised me. What? After we told him we couldn't afford the house and asked if he could help, even just a little bit, he stopped taking our calls. Madison, too. We haven't seen either of them. They're not answering texts. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sad for them. We chose wrong, she said quietly, and I could hear her crying. You were right. We chose wrong. It didn't feel as good as I thought it would, hearing her admit it. The house closes in 30 days, Dad said, back on the line. We're doing an estate sale next weekend. If there's anything you want from your childhood room, you should come get it. I went to the estate sale. Couldn't not go, really. It was surreal, seeing all our family stuff laid out on tables with price tags attached. Mom's china that she'd inherited from her grandmother, the set she only used for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Dad's tool collection that he'd spent decades building, every wrench and screwdriver organized perfectly. The dining room table where all those Sunday dinners happened, where Derek and Madison had sat and laughed while I was falling apart. Some stranger was going to eat dinner at that table now. Some other family would make memories there. The thought made me sad in a way I didn't expect. My parents were in the garage, sorting through old holiday decorations when I found them. Mom was wrapping ornaments in newspaper, moving slowly like everything hurt. Hey, I said. Hey, Dad replied. Mom didn't look up, just kept wrapping. I'm sorry it came to this, I said. And I meant it. I really did. I hadn't wanted them to lose the house. I just wanted them to see what their neutrality had cost. What choosing Derek had cost. Are we going to be okay? Mom asked, finally looking at me. Her eyes were red. You and us. Can we fix this? I don't know, I said honestly. You hurt me. Really badly, and I know I hurt you too. Maybe we can fix it eventually, but I'm not ready yet. I need time. Dad nodded slowly. That's fair. That's more than fair. For what it's worth, Mom said, carefully setting down an ornament. We haven't talked to Derek since we asked him for help with the house. He said we were being manipulative, that we were using our financial problems to guilt him. Said he had his own life to worry about. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Derek, who they'd chosen over me, had abandoned them the second they needed something from him. I'm not asking you to cut him out, I said. I don't want you to have to choose anymore. But I need you to understand that I can't be around him, or Madison. If you want a relationship with me going forward, It has to be separate from whatever relationship you have with them. He's our son, Dad said, but there was less conviction in it than before. So am I. They sold the house 3 weeks later. Some young family with 2 kids bought it. Said they loved the backyard, loved the neighborhood, probably going to paint over the blue-gray bedroom and make it a nursery. My parents moved into a 2-bedroom condo near the lake. It's nice, actually. Modern, updated appliances, easier to maintain. Lake view from the balcony. They seem smaller there, though. Like the reduced square footage made them physically shrink. They stopped doing Sunday dinners. Said it didn't feel right without the big dining room, without the oak table. I think the truth is it didn't feel right knowing Derek and Madison wouldn't come anyway. Knowing that their neutrality had cost them everything. We do coffee sometimes. Every other week or so. Neutral ground, a cafe halfway between my place and their condo. We talk about safe things. My work, their retirement activities, the weather, shows we're watching on Netflix. Never about Derek, never about what happened. Mom asked me about dating last week. Said she worried I'd be alone forever because of what Madison did. I told her I'd been on a few dates but nothing serious. That I was taking my time, being careful. She didn't push, didn't offer to set me up with anyone. Progress, I guess. Derek sent me an email about a month ago. Long, rambling, full of apologies and explanations. Said he and Madison broke up. Shocker. Turns out relationships built on betrayal don't have strong foundations. Who knew? He's working at a car dealership now. Selling used cars. Making decent money, he says. He asked if we could talk. Maybe get coffee. Start over. I haven't responded. Don't know if I will. Some things can't be fixed with words and coffee. The divorce finalized 3 months ago. I got the house, kept most of my savings. Madison got some of the furniture and her car. She tried to add me on LinkedIn last week, probably job searching and trying to expand her network. I declined. My parents paid me back for the missed mortgage payment. Sent me a check with "we're sorry" written in the memo line. I deposited it but didn't cash it for a week. Not sure why. Maybe I wasn't ready to close that chapter yet. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.